This is Matt Vervoice from La La Land Records, and you've entered the La La Land Lounge on GeekCast Radio.
Hello and welcome to the La La Land Lounge here on GeekCast Radio. I am, of course, TFG and Mike. This is episode 4 of the La La Land Lounge, and joining me for the first time, and this is Doug Abel from Talkin About My Generation. Hello.
Hello, sir.
How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good.
That's good. That's good. For those of you that don't know, or for probably Doug doesn't know, La La Land Records is a soundtrack release company based in Burbank, I think, out there in California, and they put out a lot of awesome soundtracks. I had been doing written reviews for them from 2013 until about, late last year, and I decided I needed to do it, change it up a little bit. I got tired of writing. I just got into this whole funk where I just couldn't write anything, so it wasn't just because of La La Land or anything else, but over the years, they've sent me a bunch of soundtracks which I've reviewed, and now we're going to take a look back, an audio look back at some of those, and even some of the new releases that they've got coming out. Actually released last week on October 13th was their 2 CD set, limited edition of 3,000 units of Jonny Quest. That's right, folks. We got Jonny Quest here. La La Land Records and Warner Brothers present the world premiere release of the original television score to the 1964-1965 classic animated Hanna-Barbera adventure series, Jonny Quest, with music by William Hanna, Joseph Barbera, and Hoyt Curtin, musical direction by Hoyt Curtin and Ted Nichols, requested by fans for decades. The thrilling and groundbreaking original music from one of the most beloved 60s animated shows of all time finally makes its official debut with this deluxe Knockout 2 CD presentation. Musical genius of Hoyt Curtin, Flintstones, Top Cat, Scooby-Doo, is on full display here, thrilling jazz-infused action scoring, brimming with excitement and drama. Produced by Lucas Kendall, Taylor White, and Nick Ranieri, mastered by Doug Schwartz, the Susie limited release of 3,000 units includes bonus tracks and features fascinating in-depth liner notes by film music journalist John Burlingame and writer Jeff Bond. Adventurous art design by Joe Sonori complements the celebratory release that will thrill fans of all ages. Now, it has been years since I've seen the original Jonny Quest, so I actually had to go back and look. I thought this thing ran forever. I didn't realize it only had one season. It only had 26 cartoons.
Yeah.
I'm like, because everything back then was first run. Well, okay, so when I say back then, I mean the 80s. When I was a kid in the 80s, everything to me was first run syndication. I didn't really, even, I know this is going to sound stupid as hell, even Batman 66, I thought was current to the 80s, obviously. It wasn't, duh. But it's just one of those things where that's the first time I was able to experience it. And I didn't realize that, oh yeah, it's, I know Jonny Quest has had a bunch of remakes and reboots over the years, but I could have sworn that first show, the original show, had more than just 26 episodes. So, as I've already said, this is a 2 CD release. It has 53 tracks on each disc, giving it 106 total tracks. I have to go back and watch the show to see the music in context. The problem with Jonny Quest is that there's so much action and so much talking. Not that this is a problem with watching the cartoon, but just trying to learn the music in the context of the show. There's so much sound effects with action and whatever else and voiceover. Unless it's a scene where nobody's talking and nobody's blowing something up, I barely notice the music.
It's there though. I mean, you can definitely tell it's there.
Oh yeah, I could definitely tell it's there, and I'm not sitting here saying anything. I'm not trying to say anything negative about it. I'm just saying that outside of the main theme, which I'm sorry, that opening is way too long. Not the music, just the opening itself.
Okay, I was going to say the music I thought was great, but yeah, you're right about the opening.
Yeah, no, the music is great, but that opening scene that has all these action shots and various things, and I'm like, okay, that's very cool looking, but that's like a 1 and 57 seconds. That's almost a 2 minute long opening, and I'm like, wait, what?
It was very reminiscent for me of the old Irwin Allen films like Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea or The Time Tunnel, Lost in Space, that sort of thing, because they had long lead-ins with everything that you'd see. So it was, you'd get like 45 seconds to a minute of this huge lead-in for it. And it was just like, my God. And I kept watching that and thinking, this is Irwin Allen. They're copying that.
Mm-hmm. See, and it's not so much the music that I have a problem with, and we'll talk more about the music here in a moment, but when watching the show back to learn about the music in its context, that opening, I wasn't expecting something super quick. Most cartoons, whether they're from the 60s or 70s or 80s, they usually have, like you said, a minute or a 1 and 15 second opening. But this is 1 minute 57 seconds, almost a 2 minute long opening. And it was just too damn long to watch for as many episodes that this score has on it. Because what I like to do is, as I said, I want to see the music in the context of each episode. So I tried to watch all of the episodes that have score releases on this. Sadly, that didn't happen. In total, you've got about 2 hours and 32 minutes of music here with the 2 CD set. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun listen through. Like I said, I do like the opening theme. I didn't realize that they were, I didn't really put jazz and action adventure, show together, but it works. It very much works.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I'm listening to it and all I could think was, it's not the beatnik, offbeat type, what's the word I'm looking for? Improvisational jazz type of thing. But it definitely had that 60s, late 60s or early 60s era jazz, which you'd hear almost like a Charlie Parker type sound, which is what it reminded me of.
Yeah. And again, this show is a product of its time back in the 60s, and the music for me, as I'm listening to it, as I said, I did very much enjoy it. I do have several favorite tracks off of here, but at the same time, I'm not exactly sure. I'm not exactly sure how many people this is going to appeal to. I know a lot of us grew up watching Jonny Quest, and we loved that action-adventure kind of aspect, but at times, some of the music, it doesn't feel repetitive, but it's not even that the fact that they put the main theme into it. So, you have the hero's theme kind of thing. It's not even that. It's just each song does tell a story within each episode, and that's good, but I'm not sure if this is something I could listen to on a regular basis, like every once in a while. I listened to it like 2 or 3 times before we recorded this thing, and I do enjoy almost all of the music.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. It's not it's not a Justice League or a Batman, the animated series type of soundtrack, if that makes any sense. It's, again, like you said, it's not bad. It's just not something you can listen to over and over and over again, repeatedly, like you can some of the others. It's good to insert in there, and I don't even want to say like you can listen to pieces of it, because you really can't. It would be taken out of context for some of it.
Yeah. Well, like they have okay, so in the 2 CD set, according to my iTunes, track 54 in my playlist is actually track 1 of the second disc, which is the Jonny Quest art card. And see here, I thought the art card, I thought that was different each time. Apparently it's not. I went back and looked at several episodes, and apparently the art, like, when I say art card, it's the opening title where they give the name of the episode. You know what I'm talking about? So I thought those were all different, because I'm used to watching shows like He-Man and the Masters of the Universe or She-Ra Princess of Power, where each one of those, they have 1 or 2 varying art card themes for those, and they rotate them. So it's not all the same one at the same, every single episode. Going back and watching through Jonny Quest, I still enjoy it. I haven't seen the show in years. I couldn't even tell. The last time I probably saw an episode of Jonny Quest, even on TV in syndication, was probably anywhere between 87 and 90.
Yeah.
It's a show that lives in my memory that, oh yeah, I remember that, and I remember Johnny and Haji and Sim Sim Salabim and Bandit always barking and everybody saying, oh yeah, Bandit, you're right, or oh no, Bandit, don't do that. That was the funniest thing. Watching some of these episodes was Bandit would do nothing but bark, and then any of the characters that were interacting with him, they would just assume he's, it's almost like they could understand him. Like they had an animal translator in Nader or something from Dr. Doofenshmirtz. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorites with him was when they were, I want to say it was Terror Island, when they show everybody at the Chinese restaurant and they're getting their picture taken, and Bandit immediately has to weasel up and have his picture taken. And I was just kind of like, okay, really? Of course, he was a ham, and that's what Race even said. I kind of went, okay, it's cute. But that was the other thing that was kind of odd for me as I'm watching this. I didn't watch all the episodes because there's just way too many for me to sit down and watch for this.
Yeah, there's 26 total episodes for the first season, but there's, you got to do that, plus you got to.
Yeah, I didn't have the time for it, but. In the few episodes that I did watch, Haji never said Sim Sim Salabim, so I'm thinking that was from like the 90s version that they did.
No, he said it. It was, which episode was it that I watched? It was probably the Robot Spy, or I think it was Riddle of the Gold, one of those, where he was, they had gone up against somebody who was trying to kidnap a girl or some other kid, and Haji's like, here, look. Oh no, that's not what it was. He did it to Bandit in one of the early episodes, one of the first ones. I forget which one it was. It actually might have been the very first episode, the Mystery of the Lizard Men, where he pulled out the magic coin trick, and that's when he said it. So I distinctly remember hearing him say that, because I had to then obviously quote him saying that. And the funny thing is, according to certain searches on Google, Sim Sim Salabim apparently in most modern terms means madness. I guess. I don't know. I did spend the full 2 hours, 32 minutes listening to all these tracks. I do enjoy the music. I think it's wonderful that La La Land put this out. I think it's great that we finally have Hoyt Curtin's music. And that was the other thing. I know you don't have this. I actually sent you the MP3 files, but the liner notes in this basically tell the story of how the whole show came about and everything else, the music, and they talk about how back in those days it wasn't often that the actual musical composer or director got a credit. Think of Mel Blanc's deal with Warner Brothers, where only his name could appear as voiced by. It's that same kind of thing. So that's why you have William Hanna, Joseph Barbera, and Hoyt Curtin along with Ted Nichols. So that was kind of fun. In the liner notes, they talk about trying to come. Hanna-Barbera had this stable as the longest time, Flintstones, Jetsons, all that, and they wanted to do something completely different. And this was completely different. This was an action-adventure show for children. I mean, Johnny's about 11 years old or so, I think, in this. And he's got his dad, and he's got Bandit and Haji and Race and all that.
All right, folks. We've taken a little break in between the first portion of this episode of the La La Land Lounge and now because the audio gremlins decided to basically destroy part of the audio that Doug and I had recorded. So we are back now and wrapping up the Jonny Quest La La Land Records 2 CD set score. It's 106 tracks between 2 discs, 53 tracks each disc, as I've said already in the past 14, 15 minutes. I do love this music. As we've been saying, I'm just not sure if this is something I can listen to on the regular. It's nice that it's there. It's great to go back and rewatch the first and only season of the original Jonny Quest. Any final thoughts from you on the CD score set?
Not much different from what you've already said. It's basically, like you said, it's good music. It's great. It's got a nice beat, but it ain't no Batman the Animated Series or Justice League Unlimited soundtrack.
Yeah, well, I mean, for its time, I think it really works. And back then, especially in the 60s,
oh yeah,
in the 60s you had Flintstones and Jetsons, and you had a few other Hanna-Barbera staples. And then this was them, as we've already said, basically breaking out into something new and cool. And I would assume that most people that grew up in, even though my mom's now passed away almost a year and a half, she was born in 54. So by 64, when this came out, she was 10 years old. So she was, I don't know, I assume she was into Jonny Quest. I know she liked Beanie and Cecil, so there's that. But I'm just saying, people of that age, anywhere between, I'd say, 5 and 10-year-olds in 1964, I'm sure this was their version of whatever the hell properties we could list off for the 80s for us. Yeah. So, and it did change Hanna-Barbera's landscape a little bit. It added a flavor that was not there. So that's why I also appreciate the music. Again, like I said, unless I have the need to feel adventurous, since it's an adventure show, I guess. Overall, 0 to 5 rating scale on the GCRN Universal Rating Scale, I'd probably give the 2 CD set a 4.5. I'm only going to give it and it's a good grade, 4.5 out of 5. I'm only going to give it 4.5 because, as I said, it's not a score that I will be going back to on a regular basis. Like, out of the stuff that La La Land Records has released since I've been working with them, Shaft, Samuel L. Jackson's Shaft from 2000, any of the Batman the Animated Series stuff, as you've already mentioned, Superman the Animated Series, The Flash, Supergirl, that kind of stuff. That's kind of like my go-to wheelhouse for soundtracks for this. Yeah. If we've offended anybody with our opinion, we're sorry, not sorry, I guess. I don't know, but it is what it is. 0 to 5, what would you give Jonny Quest's 2 CD set?
I'd probably go with a 4 out of 5. It's, like you said, it's a great soundtrack. and I'm glad they finally got it out onto a soundtrack because people have been wanting this for decades.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like you said, it's not something I could listen to all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really where I'm kind of downgrading it, that half star from what you graded it at.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming up next here in the La La Land Lounge, I don't actually know, folks. I'm not sure. Looking at my stack of CDs over here, I've got Justice League versus Teen Titans and Batman Bad Blood. I've got Blind Spot Season 1. Ooh, 1996's Primal Fear. Talk about a 20th anniversary release. Let's see, what else is over here? Oh, it was already... we've got... Ferris. We can do Ferris next. So, yeah, we'll celebrate another 30th anniversary. Ooh. Oh, that would be so cruel. Next episode 5 of the La La Land Lounge, The Primal Fear of Ferris Bueller. We'll cover Primal Fear and Ferris Bueller in the same episode.
Oh, boy.
That would be funny. I'd actually have to go back and watch Primal Fear. I remember that movie, but I don't remember it that well. I just know that it's Richard Gere, and I think it's Ed Norton, or I don't know. I could be wrong. Might be somebody else.
Yeah, I'm more of the Ferris person. I could quote you lines from that thing all day. Pardon me, but you're an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Swing batter, swing batter, swing batter, batter, batter. Yeah.
Yeah.
So who knows? That, I just trying to figure out ways to bring in interesting various soundtrack reviews for the La La Land Lounge. As I said, I'm doing the audio reviews instead of written reviews at this point, and I think that would be kind of interesting to compare something that came out 30 years ago versus 20 years ago, and basically a comedy coming-of-age film versus a suspenseful thriller. So who knows? Oh. That's going to do it for us here in the La La Land Lounge. Where can the people find you online, sir?
You can find us out at mygenerationpodcast.com. You can check out all of our episodes. We're talking about my generation out there. You can also write me on Twitter at SPRZOUT, or you can write us at mygenerationpodcast@gmail.com.
Yes. And that's going to do it for us here in the La La Land Lounge. Go over to lalalandrecords.com, where soundtracks live, to get all your soundtrack needs.